And there was a lot of waiting by myself in the cockpit, while they were adjusting because it was like a crane shot, and then it was complicated shots that we were doing. And I was a lot of time just dressed in this imperial outfit that he's wearing in the first block, and sitting there in the cockpit by myself, going like, damn, tomorrow I'm packing, the day after I'm taking a plane, and this is it. One more ride, and this is it.
Genevieve, Tony, and Diego, how's it going? We are, I believe, like 6 hours, 12 hours from the final block of episodes coming out. Tony, I think I've seen you say before that a lot of this job is like oscillating between overconfidence and anxiety. So I'm just curious, as we're heading into, the last Andors ever, how are we feeling?
Oh, this is entirely different. This is, you know, this is sad. There's no more potential after tonight. It's been 5 years of potential. So after this, it's all out there. So there's been so many farewells and conclusions along the way. So many markers: last day of shooting, last day of mixing, last day of color, all these different things. So this is another marker. I'm kind of used to it, but it's bittersweet. I'm confident. I am confident about what we're dropping tonight. I'm very happy with what we're dropping. So,
That's good to hear. You want a little bit of confidence, but a little bit. It
yeah.
does feel a little bit like, graduation day. You're not going to see your friends anymore like you used
No,
to.
but how I feel doesn't matter anymore. You know.
I'm excited for people to see it. I'm excited for it to be out there, for it to belong to others. Yeah, it becomes something else now, and that's everything you want. You want people to have it. You want it to be someone else's, and it is.
I'm gonna be, I'm terribly sad. I didn't had a good night of sleep. I flew last night to New York for this last bit of promotion, and I just realized, yeah, that we've been talking about an ending, uh, but without actually getting there, and I've been fantasizing with this and telling people how cool I am about it, and how resolved I am about it, and how happy I am to be part of this community, and how proud I am for the work we've done, and all of that is true. But one thing I am gonna miss is like having the opportunity to talk like this about something, of yeah, it's going to be interesting to go back to life when it's yeah, when this is not a subject that I'm asked anymore. And I hope I one thing I do hope, which is these long format stories and these streaming services and all of this has changed the way we deliver, we talk about our work. We've been promoting for 4 weeks something that, there wasn't like an opening, a premiere. So there's something that this show, I'm feeling it with season one now. There's something this show is going to be doing, I guess, which is coming back to us, in different ways. Like I have many people today talking about the first season because of what's happening with the second they decided to watch, and that's new audiences. Anyway, I think this idea of that being there, always available, it's gonna make it present, but I'm gonna miss the people, a lot.
Well, that's a great place to start, is the deep place of sadness for you all. But I do want to sort of follow up there, Genevieve, and for all of you, honestly, this has been 10 years of your life, and that's a leading up to one single moment of where you sort of end. So I want to ask if you sort of recall the last shot you each shot as Cassian and Mon.
My last shot was the wedding dance. We That was our last, that was, oh no, maybe that wasn't the last shot, actually. Oh, maybe it wasn't. No, no, it was the
It
last
was.
one.
Was.
Okay. It was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
You were
was.
sick. You were getting sick at that point from spinning.
Yeah, that was such an extraordinary crescendo. And to finish on that, so it was a very, very special day. It was a huge day. It had been this huge build up, this set piece that we was called, and then we came back, and then we kind of re-looked at it and rehearsed it, and then we all got together in that. And Tony was there, and we all got together in that huge, big rave scene and got to throw it all out there. It was very special actually that day.
Mine was the complete opposite. Mine was myself alone doing some pickups for the scene you see in the TIE fighter. But it was special too, you know, it was like
Oh
going
yeah.
back to play like a kid, you know. It was just action, it was just me going down, going up, shaking, getting hit, you know, like little bits and pieces to build that action sequence where he's, you know, trying to deal with this piece of equipment he doesn't know how to pilot. And it was fun, but it was intense, and there was a lot of waiting by myself in the cockpit, you know, while they were adjusting, because it was like a crane shot, and then it was complicated shots that we were doing, and I was a lot of time just dressed in this imperial outfit that he's wearing in the first block, and sitting there in the cockpit by myself, going like, damn, you know, tomorrow I'm packing, the day after I'm taking a plane, and this is it. One more ride and this is it, you know. But it was very, very it meant a lot because it was the last day of the actual production, you know. So I got the opportunity not just to be with Tony, but the whole team was there, and it was a like a beautiful moment where we shared some footage from all everything we've shot, and there was words, and there was an opportunity to make a toast with the whole team. So it was very good. It felt very good. You know, it felt like a proper wrapper up kind of, yeah, day.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I love how often the answer to that question is like, you know, you have to shoot a pickup of your hand or something. It's never, you don't always get the big celebration, but you know, it's gotta end somewhere. And you know, sort of coming off that, Tony, when I think of the final image of this season, you know, it has that element of both hope and tragedy. It's Bix, you know, and we all know that Cassian will not be returning, you know, because of what happens in Rogue One. So I'm curious, when you are charting out something this complex, this big, at what point do you land on what the final image is going to be?
I think I had that uh, pretty early. Um, I mean, I kind of knew by the time we started mapping out season two that it was going to be a pretty rugged road for most of the characters that we really came to care about. I mean, a pretty hard path, and we certainly know what happens in Rogue. So, um, I mean, it's not there's nothing cheesy about it. There's nothing really sentimental about it, but there has to be hope. There just has to be hope. If there isn't a candle in the window, I don't know. I mean, why get up in the morning? So, I mean, I always knew that that was my that was my little lifeline at the end there. And the question really is can you make it so it's not dewy? Can you make it so it's not something that's really sentimental and feels earned and feels legit and looks really good? And all the work they did on the production and that Alonso did and Damian Garcia was the DP, and that actually was the last day. While he was in the tin can bouncing around, we were shooting the. I say we because it sounds like I was on the set. I'm so rarely on the set, but I did show up that day, and you know, and it you could feel it was on the Bond stage. You could feel that it was going to be legit. And so, I mean, but that idea, that image has always been that's been in my head for a while.
I am curious, you know, this was a very, I don't want to say experimental, but the structure of this season is much talked about with the year time jumps, and that was sort of a necessity of having the five seasons in mind and then paring it down. And I know that you've sort of spoken of there's a lot of experimenting with ways to make that work before you landed on this one. So I'm curious if you could maybe not go into too much detail, but like what were some of the experiments that weren't quite working? Ways of doing this that were maybe not as wiggledy as what you eventually landed on.
I'm a sketcher and I build a big compost pile. I just anything that works. I have a initial stage where I'm just trying to accumulate, so I don't really filter myself at all, and I generate all kinds of things and scenes and I'm always looking for scenes that are navigational. I'm always looking for a scene. Oh my God, I got to have that scene, and I may have a little piece of it. Um, I will say that and we've talked about this event where Diego and I sat down and realized that we were in such deep trouble. I will say, I really think that I kind of went right upstairs to that weird little wonderful hotel room in Pitlochry, and I always make if I'm in a hotel for more than 2 days, I make a nest. I always make an office there. They're always different. I've started taking pictures of them. I wish I started taking pictures of them 40 years ago. I have a whole collection of them. But I went back in there and like that that radical idea just immediately was so numerically perfect. And I think that just the sketching of like, well, what could I do? It dropped into place pretty elegantly. The big breakthrough was like, oh my God, when we come back each year, we can act. I knew I was going to come back for 3 days for the wedding. And I was like, well, can I keep doing that for the other blocks? Could you just come back for 3 days in a row? And the proof of concept of that was pretty rapid. And, you know, I don't think it's, I think a lot of it's luck. I think a lot of it is just perseverance. A lot of it's desperation. But, an idea like that, and also recognizing when something, I suppose experience and, you know, I suppose the experience of a long career lets you know when not to walk by a good idea. And that just was, man, thank you. Whoever that came from, thank you. So, man, I make a mess and then I clean it up.
Well, it seems to have really worked out in this case. Diego, when we spoke to you at the beginning of Andor, you were talking about how, the way Tony writes is very, he has to map it all out and he has to have a very real sense of space. And then when you get on set, it's very practical and you know exactly where you need to go. And it's a very physical process. How much that has helped you as an actor. I'm curious, in season two, and Genevieve, this goes for you as well, a specific time where that was very helpful for you, where you had a scene where knowing the layout of the room and having something to go and touch and having something to hold was particularly helpful for you as an actor.
I mean, the easy answer is the Gorman, the whole kind of like physical logic that set gave you, it made everything possible, and there was moments where everything was happening and we were shooting, like we were crossing the plaza, completely from one end to the other. So you had a full sense of the space. But then if you had to go and shoot the hotel room, for example, you kind of had the plaza perfectly pictured, so you're standing in front of a window and you're not acting against the blue screen going, well, one day something will be there. We experience walking the plaza, we experience rehearsing the plaza, and it's I didn't think about this before, until I found Tony's writing, that the lines have there's an impulse behind them, that is physical, that relates with the space somehow. And it's just like scenes suddenly start happening very easily, because that logic clearly was planted there before. And that's a lot has to do with his writing and the collaboration he does with Luke, and the way Luke actually executes that. You arrive and you think you know the place, because of the way you read it, and that's very special. And in this way of shooting, it's enjoyable because for you to really forget you are in this galaxy far, far away and make something very realistic. And you have to get used to the tools, to the things, to the looks, to the creatures, to the droids, to a point where you can like relate to them the way you relate with a friend, a dog, and that happens also with the way we shoot. There's a lot of rehearsals, and everything is mechanical, and things are there when you're shooting. People shows up, for everyone's all the fight scenes, for example. There's a logic that we work on for quite a while. So when you're on set, everyone knows what to do.
I would reiterate actually a lot of what Diego said there. It's really, I mean, I could go through each of them, but I'm just going to use the Senate, for example. We went to Valencia and we shot at the Arts and Science Museum in Valencia, but it's it the logic of the way it is written, the logic of the understanding that we go from an office space or a car park space to a security area that you have to pass through, to office spaces, to shared areas, to corridors that lead to a Senate chamber. There is such an understanding of the complexity of the reality that the characters are living in that it's really easy for you to, as an actor, to inhabit, that's such a wanky word, but to inhabit motivation, to inhabit how you move from one to the other, to take with you where you've been, because there is a real logic of the location. And that's, Luke Hull, our production designer, and Tony, I know, start there. And but for us to really feel that within the writing, however many months later, is quite unique and really palpable and terribly useful as an actor.
You don't think about it, but because normally you do, like, you get a page and then you get to a space and you translate that, everything the page is begging for, you transfer that, and that's part of our work, that's where our work starts, when you get to set or to rehearsal. But here you start in a different place, and that allows you to go deeper, to question things more in like an emotional and complicated level between these relations, and or you can go to find even deeper detail, once everything is said, like, well, what else am I doing, what else is the character doing at the same time of everything being asked in the page. But you start in a different spot, and that's cool for us, because it triggers creativity in a different way.
It's not just how you can create within the space, it's also how the space impacts you.
Well, that sort of reminds me. I think that for a lot of people, the centerpiece, the high mark of this season is Mon's speech. Where she calls what happens in Gorman genocide, and I'm watching it, and if I'm not mistaken, you have to climb up into a pod and deliver that speech. I'm curious, before a moment like that, you're climbing up into this pod, you're sort of by yourself. What are you thinking about in the moments right before you have to sort of deliver a moment like that? Like, what is it like for you as an actor? Not in the moment of delivery, but just in the that moment of preparation right before.
That scene was so important to me as an actor. The opportunity to be given that speech written by Dan and Tony, to be able to have to stand and deliver it, was part of the experience of it, really, because it doesn't require a big leap of imagination when you have to stand alone in a cavernous space and deliver something. And of course there's nerves, and there's but that's the work, and you put the work in, and yeah, it's nervous, but she would have been nervous. There's a lot you can take with you, yeah, the actual act of having to give the speech on the day was deeply, deeply helpful for me as an actor to find her. And I was, yeah, it's quite lonely and isolating, but then that's where she was. And it also felt very special because it was so important to me, and I knew it would be important to our piece. I knew that Dan and Tony had given me a baton, and I wanted to run as fast and as hard and as bright as I could possibly be with that. And um, I was standing in front of our crew, our extraordinary, wide, brilliant, devoted crew. And I wanted, I remember on that day wanting to do it for them, wanting them to feel proud of it. So there was a lot to take in with me, and a rich um, kind of cavern of many things to take with me, and to get the opportunity to for and also to get the opportunity for mom, to get the opportunity for that woman who to have that voice. um, it was everything.
I love that. I also think I've seen you say that you were then thrilled to give her the chance to run as well because she sort of got her first taste of action right after that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I feel like Diego had to really slow down to run with me, but he made it look very good.
I love that. Tony, I am curious. We obviously we at Backstage sort of always ask the actor's perspective of taking a piece of writing and interpreting it. But I'm curious, as creator, as writer, um, what the experience is like of being sort of surprised with the way an actor interprets something or something like that. What is it like to sort of give over the text to someone and then be surprised or thrilled or whatever with how they are interpreting that text, whatever it may be.
I mean, that's all you beg for. I mean, when you just want life. You want to be, you want it to be the extra thing. You want it to have um, that extra bit of chaos, that extra bit of whatever it is that makes something completely real, because as an animal, you know when it's real and it's not. You just do. So the system here was, we've talked about it a lot, and it's as you say. I mean, every distance is worked out, every angle is worked out, every sight line is worked out. All these things are discussed and figured out beforehand. Every stage direction and tempo and every moment of the scene has been explored as far as we can take it in a conference room, as far as we can take it in a rehearsal, as far as we could take it in a phone call or a Zoom call. You could take it as far as you can, but it's sort of like taking a perfect body from the graveyard and putting it on the table and strapping the electricity on, and you're really hoping that it comes to life. You've made it as perfect as you possibly can, and that's been our system, to like get it almost all the way there so that the people can go in on set on the day and just be free and not waste calories with chaos, not waste calories trying to figure out how we're going to block this scene, or not figure out what they're doing there, or why am I saying this, or what, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Remove all that noise and let people have the best shot they possibly have at making life happen. And you know, it was a bouquet almost every morning to open my dailies. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, and start run dailies of what happened the day before. And you know, 90% of the time I was smiling.
That's that's a percentage. That's really all you can ask for. I have seen you say you have a quote from another interview that I really like that you sort of said on most shows, most projects you do, it's the things you don't worry about are the ones that come and bite you in the ass. I'm curious for anyone here when you look back on the experience of shooting, what was the a moment of unexpected challenge? Something you weren't expecting to be a challenge that sort of became one, whether it was because of the demands of the show or just something that was unexpected.
We had some really big blows along the way. I mean, we had COVID, we had the difficulty of shooting COVID. We were one of the first COVID shows to go back. We had 800 people up the hill in Scotland with two base camps and testing. I mean, the testing budget on this show alone cost more than the budget of Michael Clayton. It's like seriously, it's like wow. I mean, uh, can't travel. can't travel. My God, we have all these places that we should have really extreme locations, want to go. I mean, in the beginning, Canary, I remember when we were when we were young and strong and idealistic, it was like, oh, we're going to go to New Guinea or we'll go to Thailand and we'll take all these kids on a plane and we'll go do this thing. We end up shooting that in Black Park. Like there's people walking dogs just off frame. It's like, you know, um, the challenges of this are just nonstop. And I think the biggest challenge of all is you just can never, ever, I think you can never get rolled by the show. Like you can't, staying healthy, huge, never getting too behind in your work. If I ever fell behind or anybody fell behind, you sort of get rolled like by a big wave. And once you start tumbling, I've seen that happen to other people before. So it's just, I would say the relentless, nonstop um, staying on top of shit was really that's the that's the big problem solve of the show because it just goes on and on and on. It's day after day after day, and it didn't stop for 5 years. You got to stay there all the way through. It's fun. It's a great place to hide out. I really miss it. I have to think about other things now. My imagination that was solely focused on all of the rest of the stuff now is now free range for all of the other things in life that suck. But but it is relentless.
Well, I think it all came to a great place. I just want well, as we wrap up here, I just want to ask, the sense that I get that this is sort of still fresh. The show is that you said goodbye to it, but you're still sort of saying goodbye to it. So for anyone who feels that way, I'm curious, what the process is like of de getting a show or a character or something sort of out of your head? What is the long tail of the show's over, everyone has seen it. I have to move on to other creative projects. What is it going to be like to sort of let Andor leave you?
Well, I mean, I wrote another script over the summer. Genevieve's in Australia on a job. Diego's done other things. They don't, none of them are quite substitutes for what we've been through, I think, not at this point. Um, I mean, we're circus people, right? We've been doing this for a while. I mean, everybody here, I mean, Diego, since before he was born, was in the circus. And Genevieve and I came to it. I have a longer stretch, but I mean, I'm second generation circus people. So, you know, you, you kind of get used to these little deaths along the way, right?
I think letting the character, I mean, I said goodbye to this character once already, I succeeded. So I think that's not going to be the issue. The issue is the process. The issue is like, yeah, like you can move from circus to circus, but then you'll miss some dynamics that just happen, in a certain one. And this one was very special. These last 6 years were very special. It didn't like Tony said, like there was a feeling of something never ending, but always fulfilling. There wasn't like the cool part of it and then the drag, the part you hate. The like even promoting that normally is the most difficult thing to do. It's been fun because first of all, this we are talking about something we care. We are reconnecting to each other. We're discussing things we never talked about. I mean, hearing Genevieve talk about the speech is something probably that has happened to me once, and it's today. So today is already a special day because there is always something coming out of this journey that is exciting, and that's what's going to be difficult to find anywhere else. But also, you shouldn't try. It's just like we are very lucky we went through this. Like people go through their whole lives and careers without an experience like this one. This is unique, and we just have to like appreciate that and tell the story to others so they know it's possible.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I would just echo that, but just to say it is a hard one to say goodbye to because it was so special and it is special. And these guys are special, and our relationships and our community that we lived together in for 5 years was very special. So I'm deeply proud of it, but it is it. and it will always be inside us, but it's a hard one to let go of.
It's wonderful. I think that's a wonderful place to leave off. Genevieve, Tony, and Diego, thank you so much for doing this. This was a pleasure, and I am very excited for everyone to see the end of Andor. And I think this was, you use the word special, but that's truly the best way to describe it. This was a special show, and I just want to say, appreciate you creating it.
Thank you.